Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Be Your Own Hero podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Renew, fantasy author and entrepreneur, and I'm excited to have another creative on the show today. And I'd like to welcome Anastasia Lindsey. And I'm excited to have her on because she is a multifaceted creator. We're definitely going to go into all the things that she does in her life, but I kind of feel like if you were to look up definition of creative in the dictionary, you might see her face because we've got an author, a poet, an artist, and a singer with us today. So Anastasia, welcome.
Hi, thank you. What amazing introduction. I love it.
Yeah,
You might hear a little giggle while you're talking.
totally fine. I love to laugh. That's great. Yeah, so kind of just take everyone into bring everyone into your journey as a creative. And I just love to hear a little bit of that backstory and how you got to where we are, where you are today, and just fully
Yeah.
embracing that identity.
Yeah, so it wasn't always easy. I will say that I had to grow into my voice as a creative. I actually really hated my voice. Like, I had
Oh, really?
insecurities growing up, but my voice was the biggest one that I wanted to change. I
Mm.
thought it was too deep, or I wanted to sound more girly. But now that I've grown into my voice, it's like my voice is perfect for my poetry. Like, if I were supposed to have another voice, I would. So it's been a journey growing up as stepping into my voice, whether that's singing. I've tried out for The Voice. I get booked to
Yes.
sing at weddings.
We're gonna talk about that.
Yeah. And I recite my poetry at book signings and readings. So it really was a journey of accepting my voice. This is what my voice is like. And as I was going on like podcast journeys, that was compliments that I kept hearing like, wow, your voice is so soothing and calming, or your voice is perfect for poetry. So it took hearing that repeatedly for it to finally click like, okay, this is my journey. This is my voice. I get to use this gift for my poetry, for my singing, and I even do like meditation, like guiding people through calming exercises. So it's like I really am supposed to have this voice. So as a creative, it was learning how to use my voice to talk about my gifts and use my gifts that bring people joy and healing. So it wasn't always easy, but now where I'm at, I feel very comfortable with who I am and using my voice.
I love to hear that. And I think
Thank you.
that is a big thing that so many people deal with is just owning that part of who you are,
Yeah.
trusting that you do have something of value to say, to share with the world.
Yeah.
And I mean, I went through, just a similar thing, just doubting myself and doubting whether or not, I had something worth sharing. And it's like, as soon as like when you do actually break through that barrier, it's like it just opens up a whole new world. So
Yes,
I love to hear
it
that.
does. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I know a lot of people go through those insecurities and doubts, but they're really gifts. If we can learn to see past like what we're going through,
Mm.
on the other side are really beautiful opportunities for you to maybe use those insecurities as a gift. So I always challenge people like, what is your biggest insecurity and how can you use that as a gift to be of service for others?
Mm.
Imagine if you never worked past your fear of like being heard, do I have something worth sharing? Then the books and stories that you've written wouldn't be in existence. So I always challenge people like see past those and see the gift on the other side.
Okay, I don't know that I've ever heard anyone articulate it quite in that way. That is really impactful, like seeing it as a gift
Mm-hmm.
instead of like we see that as a weakness naturally, but
Yes.
flipping it to the positive and see that as a gift. And to your point, it's like you're not going to be able to like there's going to be so much more creativity in whatever that project is that you're trying to do if
Yeah.
you do embrace, these different obstacles that you're working to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a muscle. You're going to have to ask yourself that over and over again. It's not going to be a one-time thing where you say, okay, what's the gift? Okay, I'm healed now. You might have to ask yourself over and over again, what is the gift? Or what am I supposed to learn here? How am I supposed to use this for good? So not to get discouraged there. It might take some time because it certainly took me years to kind
Yep.
of work on that muscle.
Yeah, it does take a lot of time. And
Yeah.
I was on a recent podcast interview myself, we talked about that concept of it's so easy to it's easy to fall into that trap of just like instant gratification and wanting things to go
Yeah.
faster than they do. And that's just not the way life works.
No, it's not. I know that feeling though.
Yeah. Um, is like, is there anything practical that you use to help or have used in the past to help you like kind of break through some of that stuff? Like, is it journaling? I think you mentioned some meditation stuff, like anything like
Yeah.
that would be like really practical stuff for people to do.
Definitely. So definitely meditation, just sitting with yourself, learning about yourself. There's a lot that can come through once you quiet your mind. And I always tell people the idea isn't to quiet your thoughts. Like we're always thinking. There's going to be moments where we're always thinking, but you have to redirect your thoughts. So when your mind wants to take you to the left and say, no, you're not good at this. What are you thinking? Redirect it and go the other way and say, no, I can do this. I am good enough. It is scary, but I'm going to try anyways. And so that's meditating. It's just redirecting your thoughts. You don't
Mm,
have to stop your thoughts or quiet them, but redirect them in more positive ways. And it is a muscle. Once in a while, it'll come up again. It's like if you publish a book and you're like, no one's going to read this book, go into meditation and say, I see your fear, I understand your fear, but people are going to read your book. People want to hear what you have to say. So that's something simple that you can do anywhere. Just redirecting your thoughts, making it part of your habit and routine. And
mm,
eventually you'll start to think differently. Those negative thoughts won't creep in so often.
yeah.
Journaling is good too. I love to journal because it's just the act of writing. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't even have to share that with anyone, but you're getting your thoughts out. And it could even be silly, like, I don't know what to write right now. And then write that because you're doing the act of writing, which is just getting you outside of your comfort zone. And when things feel silly, sometimes great things are birthed from that. So I always say to people just to have fun with it, with this journey of like stepping outside of your comfort zone. And something it's practical, but it is a big ask is do one thing that scares you.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, if someone like presents something to you, like, "Hey, would you like to come speak in front of 100 people?" My immediate response is to say, "No, I would not," because that's scary. But that's in those moments where I need to say yes. So try to do those scary things. That way, the mountain that you climb is not so scary overall. You're like, "Wow, I did 100 people. Let's try 200 next
Mhm.
time." So those are things that work for me even though they may be scary. We don't want to deny that they're scary.
Mm.
They will be scary, but do them anyways. Try them at least.
Yeah, I think honoring those emotions that come up and giving yourself like no judgment, with that. And that
Yeah.
would help you process those emotions to be able to, okay, take a step through the fear, into the right
Yes.
direction. And yeah, I think it's just important to remember that it's building blocks. Like it's just one thing after another that builds, like you said, it's like just, you know, if you climbing that mountain, if you speak to 100 people and then the next time 200 people, it's not so scary. I mean, it's definitely
Yeah.
a great concept to think about it that way.
Yeah. Baby steps for sure. Because
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever do 1,000 people, but I could work my way up to it.
Mhm.
I don't think I could just be thrown into it and not be shaking in my boots up there and having 1,000 people look back at me. But I think the largest group I've done is 400 people, and I
Okay.
was terrified. But now I feel like, okay, maybe I could do 500. I got 400 done. And it's just little things like that where you gradually work yourself into these big and scary things that really aren't so scary. It's just we tell ourselves that, but
Yeah.
they're really beautiful things. These are great opportunities if you just allow yourself the chance to amaze yourself, like, because you'll look back and, "I really did that. I did that." You wanna be able to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can definitely agree with that that idea of like when you look back at something that was so scary and you
yeah.
realize, oh, I mean, first of all, you realize that it was always worse in your head than it was in real life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also true. But it's like that the feeling of pride that comes up, I think it
Mhm.
just washes away that fear,
It
and
does.
then it helps the next time because it's like you're just kind of, um just kind of reprogramming your brain with that stuff. It just
Yeah,
it lessens that fear. And so the next time, like we said, just kind of building blocks with that. So
absolutely. Yeah. I just encourage you all to try it. It's amazing feeling.
yeah, for sure. So let's talk about poetry. I mean, it's honestly, I have no experience with poetry. That's not my
Yeah.
genre that I write in. And so I'm fascinated to talk to a poet and like hear, like, what's your creative process like? And,
Yeah.
just like, how do you use like your own experiences to like, dive into that stuff? Yeah, I would love to hear more about that
Yeah.
process.
So I've been writing poetry since grade school, and how it happened was really magical. So I think it was like first or second grade. And in English class, one of our assignments was to turn in a poem after learning about how to write a poem. And I did. And then my teacher pulled me to the side the next day, and I immediately thought the worst. I was like, oh my gosh, she hated my poem. It wasn't very good. I did it wrong. But what she told me was like, I think that you're a natural born poet. And I encourage you to keep writing poems. This was really beautiful. And so, like, hearing that as a child, like, that stuck with me. And so I was writing poems for everything, birthdays, celebrations, Easter, like you name it. I wanted to write a poem because I was good at it. And then it wasn't until high school that I started to utilize poetry for healing,
Mm,
because we start to go through all of those crazy things in our teenage years and no one understands, right? We don't have anyone we can talk to, no one gets it. But I leaned on the one thing I knew, which was poetry. Like, that was my comfort zone. I had been writing since grade school. So I didn't know what to do with all of the feelings that I was having. So I decided to write a poem. And it felt really good being able to release my thoughts and the things that I was like holding on into in my gut. Like, it just was a release. And so I was like, maybe I'm onto something here. Like, I don't have to hold all of this in. This feels
mm,
really good to be able to just talk about it in the form of poetry. And I've always been super sensitive and like a deep thinker, deep feeler. So it's like
yeah.
poetry understands that. I didn't have to pretend to be anybody. I didn't have to sugarcoat how I was feeling. I could be as honest as possible with my
Mm,
poetry, and that felt really, really good to be able to do that. And now I'm using poetry to like ignite and inspire. So I feel like I've taken poetry on this beautiful twist and turn journey. Now I'm using it to inspire people, to empower people, while also healing people and taking them on their own healing journey. So it's really been a beautiful journey. I cannot imagine my life without poetry. It's really all around me. I always say poetry is not just what you read on paper or like spoken word, it's what's happening around us.
mm,
So I could go to the store and see two people walking in holding hands, and I want to write a poem about them. So poetry is what's happening all around me as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's so beautiful. I love that. It's like
Thank you.
poetry in motion, as you've heard that phrase before.
Yes.
Like every life is, I mean, I think that's ultimately, it's like life is really beautiful. Like if you stop to really appreciate,
Yeah.
being present, appreciate the things around you. Like you said, you're in a grocery store and you see two people holding hands. You're just being like attentive and present in that
Yeah.
moment to be able to recognize those kind of things to inspire you, make you feel something. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then you're using poetry to kind of like voice all that stuff. I think that's really, really cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll talk your ear off about poetry.
No, it's really cool. I mean, I kind of feel like it's not like it, it's not a forgotten art. That's too harsh of a word, but it's like it's not
No, I get
maybe
it.
as prominent as it should be, so
Right.
I love to hear about that process. And
Yeah.
like what for you, is it something where you're writing poems every day, or like what does that look like for you?
I am writing poems every day. Sometimes they're short and sweet, and sometimes I just want to keep typing where it's almost like prose, where it's just like paragraphs, because I do both. Sometimes I just have so much to write about that I can't think about how I want it to be said. I just need to write it out. So
Yeah.
prose is really fun too. And I always say too, with poetry and prose, you don't have to know what you're doing necessarily. Like, poetry is more in the emotion, of writing than it is like the form. Like, yeah, there's different forms and formats and styles, but the act of poetry itself starts way before you like format it. So I always tell people that want to write poems, like you don't have to worry about the formatting at first. Just write. Start off with prose, which is just the paragraph, and really tap into how you're feeling. What are you going through? What are you experiencing? How did something make you feel? And so for me, since I am a deep thinker and feeler, poetry comes natural to me because I automatically want to write about what I'm thinking or what happened or what someone said to me that day. So that's kind of what poetry is for me in everyday life. It's I carry a notebook with me.
Mm.
Sometimes I've even had to pull over because I have such a good thought. And I was like, I can't let this thought get away from
That's great.
me.
I love that.
Yeah.
That tends to be when those great ideas and thoughts happen, when you're doing something else and you can't write it down because you're like,
Yes,
driving or in the shower or something like that.
you're right. It's so true. I wish I could have like a little button that I just press record and then
Yeah.
stop and then keep going.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it's interesting to hear you say you give the advice of like, don't worry about the formatting or like all that stuff. Just write, just get your feelings out on paper.
Yeah,
And I think that's such a good reminder for anyone doing any kind of writing, no matter what the genre, because
absolutely.
we get so caught up in doing it perfect, doing it right the first time. And it's, with writing a fiction novel, what they often say, and this has been my experience, is the first draft is you telling yourself the story. And then when
Hmm.
you start going through your drafts and editing, it's like, you're really refining it at that point. And I think that's just
Yeah.
giving yourself permission to just feel things and tell
Hmm.
yourself what you're trying to say and just getting
Yeah.
your voice out on paper.
Absolutely. I always am a firm believer in that because I feel like if we try to perfect what we're writing in that moment or we're focused on like the details of it, that we're missing parts. Like our brain is filtering out so much that here comes the ideas, but we're blocking them because, oh, we didn't spell English right. We
Yeah,
switched
yeah.
letters or something. So your brain kind of blocked off whatever else creativity that you had going on.
Mhm.
So and I know that from firsthand experience when I'm writing and I want it to be perfect, thoughts will come and I was like, I can't. I gotta fix this error. And it's normal, because once you see it, you want to fix it.
Yeah.
But just train your mind to work past that. You can come back to it. You can always come back to those. But sometimes those thoughts, they're like fleeing thoughts. Once they're gone, you sit there and you're like, what was that? What was that thought? And
Yeah.
it just never comes back.
Yeah, yeah, it can be like that. It's, have you read the book Big Magic?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
what comes to mind when you say that, because that's the concept with that book is like, those ideas, it's like magic. They just like come and they're like waiting for someone to discover them. And then if like you
Yeah.
ignore it for too long, it's gonna flutter off and find someone else that will pay attention to it. So
Yes.
it's important to, like you're saying, just write. Just let that idea come through you and get it
Mhm.
out on paper before you
Yeah.
forget it, before it flies away to to find someone else.
Yeah, and then you're just sitting there like, "I thought that, I had that idea."
Yeah, exactly.
It's so true, and I always say too with that, have fun with it. Like, I always say, "Have fun," because sometimes we'll be so in a project or we wanna get this book done or we wanna create X, Y, and Z that we forget to have fun.
Mhm.
So always remember to have fun. And even if you're just doing the writing exercise where you're just writing, go back and read it and like have fun with it and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that. That's so
Yeah.
crazy. Or I don't remember writing that. Did I really write that? Like, just have fun with it and let your imagination flow and be surprised at what you actually write. Because once you're in flow state, sometimes you're not going to
Mhm.
remember what you're writing
Mhm.
until you go back and read it.
Yes, I've definitely had that happen, and you're like, "Oh, wow, I'm actually a really good writer. That's great."
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool. I did that.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, so I would love to pivot and talk about another part of your creative journey, which is music.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I feel like we're kindred spirits there because I went to school for music. And
Okay.
yeah, so I would love to hear, like, you auditioned for The Voice, if I'm getting that
I
right.
did. Yeah.
And I just think it's really cool, like, that you're in music and, like, you got into creative writing as well, because that was my journey. So I'd love to
Yeah.
hear, like, more about that.
Yeah, so I've always loved to sing, but it was more like at home. I never was like, I did choir and such, but I just liked singing at home. And actually, one of my family's favorite stories to tell is my mom took me to get my hair done one day, just like a little trim, wash, and things. And I'm underneath the hair dryer. And I was really young. I have barely a memory of it, but I was underneath the hair dryer and I'm just singing and humming because like it's loud, so I don't think anyone else can hear me.
Oh, that's so
And I'm just singing and humming away, and that was me. I was just always in my head. Just I loved humming. Even when I was eating something delicious, I was singing a little tune, and sometimes it would just happen to be out loud. It was just really good, but that's more my experience with singing. I did choir. I never did solos. I just wanted to like blend in with everyone else. But my grandpa really loved my voice, so I would sing Patsy Cline, Leanne Rhymes. Like he loved just hearing me sing those songs,
sweet.
and he's like, "Have you ever thought about trying out?" And I was like, "Oh, there's no way I could do that. No, I don't even know if I would want to be a professional singer. Like I'm a writer, that's my thing. I just like to sing for fun." But he encouraged me to do it, so I was like, "Okay, what will it hurt?" So we
Yep,
drove to St. Louis. I waited in line, and the audition was different. So it wasn't like what you see on TV. There's like steps before you get there.
yep.
So I'm in a room with 10 other people, and then there's the judge in the front. So we just go one by one. And I did not make it. However, I was really proud of myself for trying out. I was actually really surprised that some of the people in my group didn't make it either. And they had beautiful voices, very beautiful voices. So it's almost like it's not that we weren't good,
Yeah.
just they hear lots of amazing voices. They have to be
It's
very specific
subjective.
or yeah.
Mhm.
So I didn't feel bad because I was like, they didn't make it and I thought they were gonna get yeses. But the act of trying out was really scary, and you're doing it in front of 9 other contestants
Yeah.
and a judge, so that was scary, but it was fun. I would have never imagined doing anything like that, and it just goes back to what I said in the beginning of, like, embracing that fear, doing it
Mhm.
anyways. What's the worst that's gonna happen? I don't move on, and that's okay. And I didn't, and I was totally okay with it. But it was fun, just the act of trying out and meeting other singers and getting to tell people that I tried out for The Voice now. Like it's super fun, and I love that part of my story.
That's so cool. I love that.
Thank
But
you.
it is like I've had similar experiences with trying out for stuff, and it's like
Yeah.
um you get so caught up in your head about it, and you have to remember that it's subjective. Just because they said no to you doesn't mean you're a terrible singer or a terrible
Yeah.
person or anything. And it's like we can
Exactly.
apply that to our work with poetry and with fiction. It's like all art is subjective. And if you're brave enough to put yourself out there, you're going to find the audience that resonates with you and does like what you have to say, what you do. So I
Yeah.
think there's like that's kind of the lesson in that is like
Yeah.
just, keep trying new things because you never know what might happen also,
Absolutely.
but also just like, just trust that like your people are out there.
Yes, that's so true, and I always say too, like, my books aren't going to be for everybody, as good as that sounds, like, yes, I want everybody in the world to have a copy of my book, it's just not realistic, it's not going to be for everyone. So you can take that too and know that just because someone picks up your book and is like, I didn't really like that, or I didn't care for it, someone else out there in the world has it and was like, that was the best book ever. I want to reread it again. So that's helped me too, in noticing that like your ideal audience is out there,
Mhm.
your readers are out there. Your book's not going to be for everybody. Some people might even look at your art or your music and think, yikes. And then some people might want to pay thousands for that piece of art that you
Mhm.
created.
Yep.
And so it's a perfect learning example just to keep doing what you're doing, be authentic, be true to who you are, your art, because it's going to resonate with someone out there. If
Mm,
I'm not being true to my art and I'm doing something that I think people will like, then it's never
mm,
going to resonate. I feel like there's always going to be that clash, or I'm never going to want to speak about it because it's not coming directly from my heart. It's coming from what I think the world wants from me. And
mm,
we owe it to ourselves to show up exactly as we are, even though it's scary, and it is scary. And sometimes we want to be other people or be like other people. But really, when you show up as yourself, true to yourself, true to your art, that's when the beautiful magic really happens.
mm. That's really profound. Like it's that is where the beautiful magic happens when we show up as
Yeah.
our authentic selves. And, you know, then again, you're going to attract the right people to you.
Yeah.
And I think that just, that cycle continues along along any artist's journey. So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So tell me about what type of art do you like to do?
Yeah, so art for me is just more of like on the therapeutic side. I have a place about 20 minutes away from where I live. She does art classes.
Mm,
She does more of like intuitive art. So she starts off with journaling prompts and you answer all the questions in your journal. You're off in your own little corner. There might be like 10 people in a class,
mhm,
and you just go find your own little spot within a group of 10 people, and everyone's journaling and writing, thinking about their thoughts. And then she'll give you questions to then take and apply on paper. So she's like, here's charcoal, here's paint, here's water. Take your answers and put it on paper. And to me, that's really fun because now I get to take the writer in me and like the creative in me and like blend them together.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that part of art is really fun. So I do more of like abstract art
Mhm,
where it's like painting and scribbling and taking an answer where something might have been super hard, and you can really see that come through in the art. And it's blending all of the mediums. So she'll do watercolor, shading, and really just turning it into one big abstract piece of art. And I actually did my first art show sometime
oh,
last year,
cool.
which was really fun with a piece of art that I created from her class, and it won an award. So I was like, wow, look at
Oh,
that.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. So it was really fun just to, take that intuitive part of art and mix my writing with it. So that's kind of like the art class that I like, which is really different. It's not really what most people think of,
Mhm.
like when you say, what kind of art do you like? Oh, watercolor. I'm like, I like the intuitive abstract art.
That's very cool. But I think
Yeah.
it's interesting to hear you talk about it, like the way you talked about it with blending like your passion for writing and then the art itself. And I
Yeah.
think it just goes back to how we always like we're at the center of all of this. So anything that we do, whatever creative
Yeah.
outlet that we have, it still comes back to us, and we're going to blend those different parts of ourselves to make this art. And so whenever I think that also goes back to just staying true to yourself and being your authentic self. Like if you embrace who you are, you're going to be able to pour all that into your art, and that's what makes it unique. That's what makes it unique to you. That's what makes it unique to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's so cool to hear you like just kind of blending all those different areas together.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I always encourage other creatives, even if you don't know that you are. If you like art or you enjoy music or you love writing, like you are an artist. We're all
Yeah.
just different types of artists, but kind of step outside of the realm that you're in and try that painting class or try that
Mhm.
writing class if you're a singer, and kind of see how the worlds really do blend together, but you can be they're separate, but they do come together, and you'll see different parts of yourself in each outlet that you do. So with me in art, it was like, wow, I didn't know that I could do that, or that
Mhm.
it would feel this good to like take paint onto paper. Like you just discover things about yourself.
Yeah,
And
for
for
sure.
me, that's a really fun with life, is like, because you think you know yourself. Sometimes we're like, maybe not so much, but you really do get to uncover. It's like different layers to
Mm.
you. And you're like, wow, that's me. Like, I'm doing this. Like, it's just so fun. I don't really know how to put it into words, even though I'm a writer. Some of those experiences are just like so grand. I don't have the
Yeah.
words for them.
Yeah. No, I think that's really special. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So tell everyone more about your poetry, because I believe you have more than one poetry book available. Is that
Too.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So
So
I
tell everyone about your books.
Yeah, I published Ocean in 2022, and that's like my little book of healing, I say. It's
Mhm.
my own stories in the form of poetry. So I took all of like the hurt, the pain, the trauma, the inconveniences, everything that really was a burden on my heart, and I put it into the form of poetry. And I really wasn't going to write a book. I was going through a really hard time. And sometimes you're going through a hard time, and then everything from your past comes and meets you where you're at. And it's like,
Yeah.
this is a bad time for this. So I was like, I need to release all of this because there were things that I was just holding on to. Sometimes it's harder to let things go than others.
Mhm.
So there were things I was holding on to, and I decided to write them all down, really release, go through that healing journey of just letting it all go if I knew I wanted to move forward. And during that time, it was very isolating, very scary. It just brought up a whole bunch of, surfaced emotions that I pushed down. And so then I came up with the book. And I was like, well, if I'm feeling this, then maybe there's other people that are
Mhm.
going through the same
Yeah.
thing. And I was like, even though it's scary, even though these poems are very deeply personal, I want to share them so that other people know they're not alone. So that's kind of how Ocean came to be. So it's very water based, it's very emotional, but I do tie some love into there to get people ready for what's to come. Because I met my partner around that time. So things were getting better
Mhm.
as I was healing at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like emotional, but then it's love at the end. So I don't leave the reader, in high emotional states.
Mhm.
And then Wildfire, I published this year actually in February, and
Congrats.
thank you, I appreciate it. It's really crazy how this book came to be. I knew that Wildfire was going to be next, but it was going to be more like, okay, we did the healing, let's move forward type of
Mhm.
book. Let's let it be transformational, empowering. And then a lot of my followers were asking, have you ever wrote spicy poetry before? And I was like, no, it's not really in my realm of comfortability. But more and more people were asking me, and I was like, okay, well, maybe this is life's way of saying I need to try, like
Mhm.
step outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I preach it. Now I have to live it. And so I started to write spicy poems, but I didn't do so in a way that everyone would normally think.
Mhm.
So with Wildfire, they're very gentle and kind and nurturing, spicy, but I don't use any violent language
Mhm.
or violence or any vulgar language, anything like that. They're very mild and reserved, like me, but still very much spicy. And so that's where Wildfire is different. It's very passion filled. It's very love driven,
Love
and
that.
it's healing for people too because a lot of my followers, um, they've had troubled past. So I
Mhm.
had to be mindful of that. I didn't want to write a spicy poetry book that could trigger them or
Mhm.
make them remember past experiences. And I never want to leave my readers in those moments. So I was like, this book can still be healing and fun. Like they can see what healthy love looks like. They
Mhm.
can see what it means to be in a healthy relationship, what that love life looks like and how that is possible. So that's kind of how Wildfire came to be. And then I do throw some transformation poems in there. So those are my two babies.
Well, it sounds like they work really well together. Like
Yeah.
you're sharing some of the pain and the journey you're kind of coming through, and then being able to experience like something new and filled with love and passion. That's really cool.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really enjoyed talking to you and just kind of unpacking like your creative journey. And I love to hear like how much you have embraced facing your fears in your life, because if you hadn't done that, you wouldn't be here today having released two poetry books. Like it's so cool to think about, when we reflect on our journeys, like it's so cool to see those little moments in time where you you did step out and you faced your fears.
Yes, absolutely. And it goes back to not being afraid to try those things.
Mhm.
So had I have let my fear win and kept me small,
Mm.
we wouldn't even be sitting here talking
Yeah.
because I started podcasting in like 2023, so I'm fairly, new at it. But that's something that I was never interested in. I never wanted my face on camera. It just kind of brought up like feelings of anxiety. But now I love it. I love being able to meet and talk with people, but I can't imagine saying no to podcasting now. So it's like allow yourself to be surprised at what you can do and what you might actually fall in love doing
Yeah.
if you just say yes. And it's okay if you try something and you're like, yeah, that wasn't it. But now you know yourself a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. It's been a fun journey.
Yeah. I love that.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, so thank you so much for taking the time to share your learning and your experience with everyone, and I hope everyone just takes something, if it's just one thing that, someone listening or watching this could take away from this conversation and apply it to their life, that would make me super happy. So,
Me too. Yes.
so everyone be brave. And I mean, that's why I titled this podcast Be Your Own Hero. It's like no one's
Yeah.
coming to save you. So, and I don't mean that to say that there's not community and support, because that is important as well. But ultimately, we have to do the work.
We
If you
do.
want to get to where you want to go, face those fears, you have to do the work. And I'm glad that you did the work, and I'm glad that you're here sharing it with everyone else. And I hope everyone else is very inspired.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I really appreciate the time together. And yes, be brave, do the scary things, be surprised, and then fall in love with yourself all over again.
Love that. Well, before we go, tell everyone where they can find you online, where they can find your books, all the things.
Yeah, so you can head over to my website, which is summersolacehealing.com. It's summer like the season, solace, Solace, and then healing.com. And then I'm also on Instagram for Anna Marie Poetry. That's ANA Marie Poetry. And you'll find everything you need on those two platforms.
Yep. And I will link everything in the show notes for everyone to follow along. But yeah, Anastasia, thank you so much again for being on the
Thank
show. I really
you.
appreciate it.
I appreciate your time. It's fun.
Awesome. Well, we'll catch you guys later. Bye.